Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming along to our webinar this morning. I'm just going to do a quick intro as Commercial Manager of TrueStack, and then Adam will take over for the rest of the session with some questions towards the end. Okay. The reason for CE, I guess, for most people is to understand their security posture. And certainly it's something that ourselves as security specialists have gone through. It's the start of the security journey as far as most people are concerned with CE, as well as Adam will explain a lot more about the benefits of CE. But for us and for a lot of people, it's the start of the security journey. And that may well lead on to more certification and compliance, such as CE+, and maybe even reaching the dizzy heights of ISO 27001, etc., which we just have done back in January. The other thing that most businesses, including ourselves, find is your supply chain. So not forgetting that you deal with a number of partners and vendors, swapping information, sharing lots of information and data, sharing processes, orders, quotations, all sorts of things on a daily basis. And it's important that those partners in the supply chain that you work with are as secure focused as you are. And CE also addresses some of that. And then before I pass over, just to say, choosing your CE heroes, which is an interesting take on this. But at the end of the day, we invested in Cybersmart as a partner because of their security awareness. They're best in class when it comes to the portal that we use to take our clients through and to successfully complete their CE and CE+, and their secure approach to business too. So what I'd like to do now is hand over to Adam, who'll take you through the majority of this short webinar.
Good morning, all. Good morning. First off, I just want to introduce myself because some of you won't know me, or probably most of you won't know me. So my name's Adam Pilton. I work for Cybersmart, but my background is in law enforcement. I was a police officer for 15 years. And in that time, I've conducted many roles, but latterly I led the Covert Operations Management Unit. Now, this consists of 3 distinct teams. Firstly, the Covert Authorities Bureau, responsible for obtaining lawful authorities to conduct covert activity, whether that be physical, so entering a criminal's property, or online, hacking, essentially. The second team were the communication data investigators. Now, these guys and girls are responsible for obtaining data from the likes of Google, Apple, Facebook, but also more locally as well from our telephone providers, the likes of Vodafone, O2, and internet providers, BT. And the third team, as you probably expect, the cybercrime team. Now, cybercrime responsible for investigating cybercrime activities, but also for providing digital and tactical advice when it comes to traditional crime, whether that be harassment or murder. Now, I work for Cybersmart and I've worked in the audit team, so I understand the Cyber Essentials and the Cyber Essentials Plus process, and I'll be speaking to you about that today. But today, holistically, we're going to be starting off with cybercrime, what it's looking like today, what the threats are, and what we need to be aware of today and going forward. We're going to look at Cyber Essentials, how that can help us and improve our cybersecurity posture and be the start of our cybersecurity journey. And then finally, we're going to touch on the importance of culture and how culture pulls everything that we're going to be talking about today together. So without any further ado, let's have a look at cybercrime today. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is ransomware and why ransomware is a successful business. And I will encourage you here to put comments in the chat and do speak with me. So the graph we're looking at is the total value received by cyber criminals since 2019. And we can see why cyber criminals like this, because it's a successful business. It makes money year on year and it's increasing steadily. Now, what we know at the moment is that halfway through 2024, the number or the amount of money obtained by cyber criminals surpassed that of the halfway point of 23. We're still waiting for the 2024 results, but we are expecting it to be greater than the $1.1 billion we see that was made in 2023. And this is where I'm going to turn to the chat, and I'm going to ask you the anomaly on that graph, so the year 2022. Why do we think that happened? Why do we think that the trend didn't continue? There was a reduction in the money made. And I'll give you a clue. The answer isn't COVID. And what I'll do, well, Kelvin's doing that. I'll explain what 2022 looked like. And the reason we saw this dip in 2022 was purely because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, cast your mind back to 22, what we thought was going to happen was there was going to be potentially the first cyber war that we'd ever seen. Now, this didn't quite pan out as maybe some expected. However, what did happen was that people with the skills and the propensity to commit ransomware crime turned their attention, whether they were Russian, Ukraine, or whatever side they're on, turned their attention to this potential cyber war. And as such, they weren't conducting their normal daily business of ransomware. And this is a significant factor in why this number, the $567 million we see on the screen there, is significantly less than the year before and after. So I want to speak to you now about the threat that AI poses. Now, the threat that AI poses is broad, and I'm not going to cover it all here. Yes, we have the threat that it poses of generating phishing emails that are realistic. Half the time it takes a human to do it, if even less, to be fair. But what I am going to focus on today is deepfakes. Now, I'm going to show you a video, and it's from an American company called ID.me. Now, this company have shared this video to promote their product, to show the effectiveness of the product. And what I'm going to ask you to do, and again, if the chat is open, then please do comment in the chat. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to look for the giveaways. What signs do you see that what we're seeing on the screen may not be real?
Confirm your name.
Hello.
Hi, can you confirm your name?
Darren Robinson.
So,
See a replay of that again?
unfortunately, I won't be able to complete your verification for you today. You'll receive an email with next steps. Have a great rest of your day.
There we go. So watching that video, hopefully you would have picked up on a few things. I see the Q&A is open, so drop your comments in there. But the things that hopefully you would have seen is when the chap on the screen held up the ID card over his face, we all of a sudden saw that it was a different mouth. And then as he held it up over his eye, we saw the side of the face was not the male we were looking at. It appeared to be a Chinese male. And the final point to highlight was after the operator said, we're not going to be able to confirm ID verification today, we'll contact you via email. After that point, the male then spoke in his native language. So it wasn't English. I'm presuming it's Chinese. So the point here is that deepfakes are here. And they're not just here being used against CEOs or financial teams. They're being used to do relatively low-level things, fooling people in terms of identification, verification. So we all need to be aware of this, and we all now need to be thinking about verification. How are we achieving this, and what are we doing, what we're talking about in order to make people aware of it? So next up, supply chain attacks. Now this story, this case is an interesting case because it makes us think about the information we're giving away. Now, Gravy Analytics are an American-based company, and they work with other companies to provide tracking or location data. They provide software kits or pieces of software that can be used in apps. So the companies working with them may not even be aware that they're working directly with Gravy Analytics. Now, unfortunately for Gravy Analytics, they were subject of a breach and they lost 10 terabytes of data, sensitive data. Now, the military were made aware of this because lots of the apps that Gravy Analytics support were on military devices or people in senior or sensitive job roles. And this meant that lots of military locations were given away, secret locations were given away. And the point of me raising this with everyone today is because how many of us in this room have got at least one of these applications on our phones, our tablets, whatever devices we're using? And we're giving away information that potentially we're unaware of. When we sign up to these apps, we may trust the likes of Sky News or Spotify, for example, two probably of the most popular apps on that list there. And we may just sign up without looking at what we're giving away. But other than, for example, Sky News, we might want to get local news. I can't see any real reason why we give away location information. So it's a reminder to everyone to consider when we're signing up to these free apps, what the true cost is, what the actual cost is. And we're seeing this conversation a lot, particularly at the moment with the introduction of DeepSeek, so a Chinese-based AI platform that is competing with and apparently surpassing the likes of a ChatGPT and Perplexity. So what information we're giving away? It's a crucial point. And going back further than that about the information we give away and thinking about social media, we've got on the screen here a couple of images from a fictitious profile I've created of a Janet Smith. Now, you can see here in the first image on the left of your screen, she's put, "Today is my gorgeous girl's 3rd birthday," and she's celebrated in style. But the question I'd be asking you is, what information is she giving away? And the answer here is the 25th of March, and she's told us it's her daughter's 3rd birthday. So we now know her daughter's date of birth. And the image on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see a dog digging a hole at a beach. But the text is the information that's given away. And so I love spending time at Lyme Regis with my beautiful Henry. Henry clearly being the dog's name and the beach being Lyme Regis. So the information from these two posts that are given away are pet's name, a favorite location, and a daughter's birthday. These are all common elements in a weak password. Now, in isolation, there's nothing wrong with these messages, but we just have to be conscious about the information we're giving away, because when this information is given away, this is the type of information that leads to phishing emails. And not just phishing emails, it's the text messages we receive, so smishing. And this is an example of some recent smishing emails that have been seen, that have been circulating widely. Now, if we first look at the one on the left, because they're both doing different things, the text message on the left is purporting to be from Nationwide Building Society. And it's saying that a payment has been declined from the receiver's bank account. And it's asking for us to call that number. So there's no link to click, it's simply asking us to call a number. Now, for some people, the fact that it's asking us to call a number may reassure them, oh, it can't be a scam because it's not a link. And I know that links are associated with scams. But calling this number would then set you on the same trail as clicking a link would. You'd be socially engineered to give information away. And then if we look on the right-hand side, the reminder or the information being shared about subsidies, about the winter allowance, the winter fuel allowance. Now, this went particularly wide at the time that the winter fuel payment was taken away from a certain selection of people in society. But this link here was potentially a promise of receiving further money that would support those people that are vulnerable. Again, using a different tactic to achieve the same means. Now, as we wrap up the cybersecurity update for today, I just wanted to touch on the National Cybersecurity Centre's annual review. So those of you aren't aware, every year we have an annual review that comes out from the National Cybersecurity Centre where they look at the year gone, what information they've seen, the rises or the declines in certain areas such as cyber essentials, which they've seen massive rises in. We can see on the screen here, as well as the contact they've been having, the support that they've been having to give to businesses and organizations. And the one piece of information that kept coming through and was repeated and repeated throughout this year's review, which I haven't seen before, is what we see in the top right-hand corner. The UK needs to wake up to the severity of the cyber threat. This was repeated in different words throughout the annual review. The message was that across the country, individuals, businesses are not up to the standard they need to be. And to be fair, lots of them haven't even started working towards that standard. And this is why, and they point to Cyber Essentials and the effectiveness of Cyber Essentials, because for many people, this is the first step in their cybersecurity journey. And it's a step that's achievable by everybody because it's setting the basics in place. So what is Cyber Essentials? Well, Cyber Essentials has been with us now for 10 years, and it's a government-backed scheme. Cyber Essentials is a self-assessment certification process. And as I mentioned before, it really is the basics, it's the fundamentals of cybersecurity. Now, the purpose of this is for a business to get cybersecurity in place and have a degree of confidence that they have done that. But it's also designed to support supply chain activity. So when you are partnering or working with another business, you can be confident that they reached a certain standard by them being in possession of a Cyber Essentials certificate showing that they have met those standards. And what we've seen from surveys done within Cyber Essentials and that have come out from the government is that those people that do Cyber Essentials, over 60% of them say they've learned something new. And the people doing Cyber Essentials, it's not just technical people, it's not just in the domain of the IT department. These are small businesses as well. Businesses that may on the surface think they don't know anything about cybersecurity, but Cyber Essentials is written in such a way so that anybody can answer the questions. And you'll see in the bottom right corner of the screen here, we've got Cyber Essentials Plus. Now, Cyber Essentials Plus is an audited version of Cyber Essentials. So how it works simply is you complete Cyber Essentials by conducting the self-assessment, confirming you have certain controls in place, and demonstrating this by writing down the, for example, operating systems you have in place and the versions of software you have in place. Within 3 months of achieving Cyber Essentials, you would then request an auditor to come in, and this is something that you can do through TrueStack. They will then conduct the Cyber Essentials Plus audit, verifying those controls are in place and essentially giving you the rubber stamp that you do meet that standard. I'm going to quickly touch on what Cyber Essentials consists of. So 5 core pillars here. So firewalls, as you can see, this is to protect your boundaries, to protect your internet, what is allowed to leave the organization and what is allowed to come in to your organization or to your network. The second being secure configuration, making sure that your devices operate how you want them to. So for example, executables that could arrive via email, for example, do not automatically run. User access control. Now, this is really important to make sure that your users can only access the information that they need to access. No more, no less. So as a standard user, I shouldn't be able to see what someone in the finance team can access, for example. And malware protection, a really important one, particularly as we've been just talking about ransomware. Now, this is really important to have this in place, up-to-date antivirus, malware protection to protect your business from any malicious software. And the final point, patch management. Sometimes this is something that is overlooked, but more and more we see on the news that cyber criminals are getting in by exploiting vulnerabilities that exist in software. Now, this could be as simple as running an update on Google Chrome or the Microsoft updates that come out on Patch Tuesday. But it's so important that we apply these patches when the companies, the vendors that we're working with, the software providers we're working with, provide them to us. And I just wanted to highlight here that Cyber Essentials Plus, they work. And this is a fantastic case study as to why that is the case. And I encourage you all to have a quick Google and look for this. And in a nutshell, though, what happened here? St James's Place, they're the largest wealth management firm in the country, in the UK. Now, they've got over 2,800 partners, and they decided they wanted to improve the security of themselves and their partner network. So they gave everyone 12 months to achieve the standard of Cyber Essentials Plus. 12 months gone, and they found their partners had done that. The majority of the partners had reached the standard of Cyber Essentials Plus. 12 months post that point, they then looked at their stats and they saw there was an 80% reduction in cyber security incidents across their partner network. Now, first of all, that's a fantastic result because they're reducing their cyber security risk. But additionally, if we think about the resource that would have been required to address all of those issues, IT teams addressing, fixing the problems, the downtime from people potentially not being able to work or operate their devices during that time, an 80% reduction is a significant financial reward for that cybersecurity as well. So we've got a few changes to Cyber Essentials, which is coming up in April. So the 71% that have currently got Cyber Essentials, and for everyone else that's going to be hopefully joining the scheme soon, this April, we're going to see some terminology changes. So for example, rather than being referred to as home workers, we're now going to be talking people as remote workers. So essentially people that aren't in the office. Cyber Essentials is recognizing that you may not work at home, you may work in another location, which is remote from your office, from your network. Scope verification. Now, this is an interesting one. So organizations that aren't applying Cyber Essentials to their whole organization, only to a certain section, they will now require an auditor to verify that they have, in line with Cyber Essentials, successfully segmented the piece of the organization, the network, that isn't part of the scope. And the final one of real note is passwordless technology. So previously, Cyber Essentials has always referred to passwords, either 12 characters or 8 characters with MFA. Now, Cyber Essentials is recognizing passwordless technology, a real positive move to move forward with the technology that we're seeing used. As I mentioned at the start, my background is in law enforcement, so I wanted to share a story with you today to hopefully emphasize the discussions that we've been having. And this starts with a solicitor's firm. Now, this solicitor's firm had all the technical controls they should have in place. They had the certifications to support this, and the security was strong. You could only work in the office. There was nobody able to remotely work. And you'd expect this because of the sensitive data, information, discussions, conversations that they're having. So they had this in place. However, what they didn't have in place, clearly, was an effective strategy to embed a culture, to make people understand why this is in place. Because there was one solicitor who found themselves stressed with the high workload, and they couldn't perform their daily tasks during their 9 to 5 that they were allowed in the office. Now, rather than putting their hand up and saying they were struggling, making it clear that they needed more time at their desk or less work, they decided to find a different way of managing the problem. And unfortunately, this way was by creating a Hotmail account with their name and the solicitor's firm name in the address. And they were then forwarding their emails to this Hotmail address. But unfortunately, these emails, some contained attachments, but all of them contained information from clients. And they were speaking to their clients evenings and weekends using this Hotmail account. Now, as time went by, unfortunately, the weak security and lack of MFA on this account got picked up by cyber criminals. But what the cyber criminals did was interesting because they just sat and waited and watched. They watched the messages going in and they watched the messages going out. And they sat there for some time, clearly waiting for the right opportunity. And when the right opportunity came, that is when they acted. There was one conversation that caught their attention. And this conversation was in relation to inheritance. And it was inheritance that was over £400,000. And what they did is they then changed rules, simple settings within this email inbox that meant that any emails that came from this individual client went to a folder, a hidden folder, where the cyber criminal could read it and either allow it to go into the inbox or alter it and then push it into the solicitor's main visible inbox. And the same for messages being sent. Any messages that were sent to this client went into an invisible inbox where the messages could be altered, changed to suit the cyber criminal's theme. And this went on for some time until it came to the point where the victim, the client, sent in a document containing their bank details where the money had to be paid. This was altered, as you may expect, to include the cyber criminal's bank details. The solicitor was none the wiser of this. The money was transferred and the cyber criminal disappeared. And a couple of days later, that is when it became apparent what happened, because the solicitor had sent the money and the client was waiting for it and it never arrived. Now, in this case, some of the money was recovered, not all of it. And the solicitor certainly, the firm certainly learned their lesson. But the cyber criminal was able to get away with it because they used techniques to protect their data, their identity online. And all we could see was that some of the money had left Europe. And I want to make a point here on criminal investigations. Now, law enforcement are fantastic. They do a fantastic job. But unfortunately, there's not enough of them. And this means that criminal investigations are taking longer and longer and longer. And particularly when we look at criminal investigations that involve digital technology. And this is because every single line of data needs to be gone through before a matter can go to court. And what we saw in 2019 was the Serious Fraud Office said it was taking them on average 4 years and 7 months to be able to take an investigation from start point to point of charge. And to be clear, the point of charge is the point where they say, are we going to take this to court or not? And that was 4 years, 7 months alone. And what we're seeing now from courts is that the court waiting time is increasing and increasing and increasing. So we're not getting resolution on cases that are going to court until at least a year now. Now, if we combine that with the information from 2019 that we knew from the Serious Fraud Office, and their numbers in terms of the length it's going to take to get a case is only going to increase with the introduction of AI, and the volumes of data that we're looking at is only going to increase. So the point of showing you this is to really drill home that prevention is better than cure, because potentially we're waiting 5 years plus in order to get an outcome on any crimes that do go to court, cyber crimes that do go to court. So prevention is better than cure. It's better to have security in place now than depend upon a criminal justice system whereby it could take a significant amount of times just to be able to get a final resolution. So a few points I'd like to take away today. Prevention is crucial. We've touched on that. We know why it's crucial. Putting measures in place to stop an attack unfolding will prevent long waiting times, business disruptions, so our daily business being unable to operate, and potentially, when we look at those ransomware stats we look at, significant financial costs. A comprehensive strategy is essential. Now, the reason strategy is essential is because we must have a plan. Achieving cyber essentials, as I've said, is the first step for many organizations. And lots of people learn and improve their understanding of cybersecurity from this. But we must have a plan to continue to build upon that. And we heard TrueStack talking about ISO 27001 and how they've achieved this. moving along our information security journey and our cyber security journey is essential to maintain our security and the viability of our business. And the final point, culture and awareness matter. We spoke about the latest cybersecurity threats of today and the future, and it's really important at an organizational level that we're talking about this and we're aware. Because if people are aware of the latest phishing emails, how deepfakes can be used against us, then they're more likely to spot these attacks as they develop. And this is where I hand back over to you, Stephen.
Okay. Adam, thank you very much. And I'm sure those present have been impressed with what they've heard concerning CE and that journey. I'm going to answer the question that's just come through here, actually. Can I get Cyber Essentials on my own? From our perspective, we needed a partner like Cybersmart, and we're specialists. I know that we resubmitted our first submission because we didn't get it quite right. And if you go off on your own and try and do it, you might go down a dark tunnel. I'm not trying to scare you, but I know from my own experience and other customers that have come to us and tried to do it, there are things you need to know. There are things you need to absolutely get right. There are things that can happen to you overnight, like a CVE changing or something really simple that can derail your approach. So having a partner like TrueStack and also Cybersmart can get you there much quicker, and hopefully not spending too much money to get you there as well, because that's important. It all needs to be affordable. And then finally, the other thing I would say is, in terms of culture, whilst we're a managed services business that is security focused, we also started last year our security awareness, I would call it, training program internally. And that covers all sorts of awareness videos, questionnaires, quizzes. And it's actually helped to give us a culture of people always thinking about what they're reading. We do phishing exercises all of the time. And those of us that click on the phishing link, and I have been guilty just the once in the last 6 months. But these things are very good and they're hard to spot. But at least what we're doing now is asking everyone, and everyone in the business is actually thinking twice about what they read and what they click on, because that can be the start of a very dangerous journey.
Stephen, just while you're looking for questions, just a couple of points off of what you said there, and you're spot on. So first of all, when it comes to phishing, anybody and everybody is victim, potentially. They are sophisticated, and it is a case sometimes of we look at an email on our phone, we're in a rush, and it's easy to click on these things. So it is a real threat, but being aware is certainly something that can help you, particularly if having conversations in the office. And when it comes to the initial question that was asked about Cyber Essentials, well, TrueStack using Cybersmart for a reason. It's because we're the largest provider of Cyber Essentials in the UK, providing over 10% of all Cyber Essentials certificates. And the audit team that we use are the people that are certifying, reviewing those certificates or self-assessments and Cyber Essentials Plus audits. This giving them the advantage because they see so many different networks. And as Stephen pointed out, we offer a no-fail environment. So with other organizations, you get 2 opportunities to essentially answer in the correct way. But with Cyber Essentials, we offer a no-fail environment. So you can work with TrueStack and answer the questions, work with us to achieve the correct standard before you then finally submit. So you take away that element of risk of paying, having the 2 opportunities, and then losing that money and having to repay and go again.
Adam, we did have we had a question of actually one participant that couldn't turn up, but did send me a question on email actually about the insurance that you get with Cyber Essentials. Could you just very briefly just tell people what that is?
Yeah, certainly. So those organisations, UK based, under 20, earning under 20 million, revenue under 20 million, they're entitled to £25,000 worth of insurance, cyber insurance. Now, working with TrueStack, you potentially obtain a larger insurance value, but you'd have to speak to your account managers about that. But essentially, you get the £25,000 insurance and access to a breach response helpline. And obviously, the money is a significant help, but sometimes just having access to the breach response helpline is a real big win, particularly when you're in potentially a stressful moment where you're unsure what to do next. Having someone on the end of the phone or that you can contact that's been there before, experienced, they know what to do in these circumstances, just to guide you in those initial minutes and hours when, in all honesty, from the experiences that I've had working with organizations, it's often the chaos of who's attacking us, why, how are they doing it, is it going to stop? All these questions are circulating in your mind. To have that experienced voice that can start you off and guide you in the right direction is priceless.
Okay, thanks, Adam. So like I said, if there's something that you want to get started on, take us up on our offer of the free certification costs and also our expertise in getting people over the line quite quickly, which is what we've been doing over the last 18 months or so. Get in touch with your account manager, reach out to hello@truestack.co.uk and we'll get you started. And thank you all very much for taking some time today.